toward the one, the perfection of love, harmony, and beauty, the only being, united with all the illuminated souls who form the embodiment of the Master, the Spirit of guidance. Our theme for tonight is the threefold nature of reality, otherwise known as the Trinity. So I'd like to begin by reading you a few passages from Diane and I. The idea that has existed in Christianity is also a riddle to solve, that we may find out the truth of life. It is the idea of the Trinity. What keeps the soul in perplexity is the threefold aspect of manifestation. As long as the soul remains in this puzzle, it cannot arrive at the knowledge of the one. These three aspects are the seer, sight, and the seen, the knower, knowledge, and the known. Plainly explained, I would say these are three aspects of life. One aspect is the person who sees. The other aspect is the sight, or the eyes, by the help of which he sees. And the third aspect is that which he sees. One therefore cannot readily accept the idea that what I see is the same as myself, nor can he believe that for a moment, that the medium by which I see is myself. For the three above said aspects seem to be standing separate and looking at one another's face as the first person, second person, and third person of Brahma. When this riddle is solved by knowing that the three are one, then the purpose of the God ideal is fulfilled. For the three veils which cover the one are lifted up. Then there remain no longer three. Then there is one, the only being. As Hegel says, if you believe in one God, you are right. If you believe in two gods, that is true. But if you believe in three gods, that is right also, for the nature of unity is realized by variety. So these are puzzling statements. How do we make sense out of this? So we can imagine back to before the creation of anything in manifestation. And what was there? There was the one, the divine being existing in the divine solitude. And then that longing arose in the divine being to know and to be known, to love and be loved. And so creation ensued. Manifestation developed, and beings developed consciousness. And the state of things for a long while was one of duality, twofold nature of reality. There was what was in manifestation, and perceived as being far removed from that was the divine being, either thought of as being transcendent, or even in the notion of a God that's involved in existence, somehow far away from the possibility of nearness of the human being. So the quest of spirituality has been, by different means and different traditions, to bridge that seemingly infinite gulf between the human and the divine. And in some traditions, the solution has been to overcome this dualistic separation by achieving a state of unity, a state of merging back into the source from which everything has arisen. But for the Sufi, the purpose is seen to be something quite different. And in the Sufism brought forth in the world by Hazrat Ayat Khan, the message is about awakening of divinity in life. So how can this happen? How can we get past this separated, seemingly separated state of affairs of human beings and everything in manifestation and the divine? Well, Hasranite Khan gives clues in this description of how the Trinity operates, and it's not just in Christianity. In Christianity, it's the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. But in Hinduism, it's Brahma, the creator, Vishnu, the preserver, and Shiva, the destroyer. So there's been this threefold notion of reality existing for thousands and thousands of years. So what does it mean on the personal level of a human being to participate in this threefold nature of reality? Well, the Sufis talk about all these variations of triplets: the seer, the seen, and the act of seeing; the knower, the known, and the act of knowing; love, lover, and the beloved, and so on. But we still, when we first hear of these things or begin to try to experience what they mean, we still tend to experience it in a dualistic way. Even though Hasranite Khan says these are all just different aspects of the one, that we are all integral parts of, we still tend to experience it, well, I'm here and I am seeing. Well, how am I seeing? By the modality of sight. And what am I seeing? I'm seeing whatever object that is perceived, but the experience is that that object is separate from me. It's far removed from me. Perhaps I can touch it. If I'm a scientist, I can analyze it, but there's a limit to how close I can get to it. Well, we've explored in other classes on many occasions the notion of tawil, harmonic perception, seeing behind the surface appearance of something, being able to experience the deeper nature of the reality that it represents. And we've also talked about the only way we can engage in that process is if we've opened up to a deeper level of our own being, a way of connection with what we are experiencing, where now there's what I call relational unity. There's this intimacy, there's a circulation between ourselves and what we're experiencing. It no longer seems separated, and yet it's got all of its uniqueness, and so do we. But now something arises from that putting together of those two things. So I'd like to read you some now from Ibn Arabi, who lived hundreds of years ago, but was just an incredibly profound teacher and mystic. And here's what he has to say about a divine name. We work with the divine names, the Waza'if, they're known as. He says that the totality of a divine name is constituted by this name itself, or by a divine Lord belonging to the world of mystery, and by the faithful whose soul is its receptacle, the form by which and to which it is epiphanized, the two standing to one another in a reciprocal relationship of action and passion. So he doesn't say the totality is this archetypal property of, let's say, the divine beauty, totally far removed from existence. And he doesn't say that, well, that's just something that is a property of something in the world, like a rose is beautiful, so yes, the rose has beauty. He says that this divine name is something that emerges by this reciprocal relationship of action and passion by the faithful and the divine Lord. And Ibn Arabi's talking about our personal Lord, or sometimes it's called our personal angel. It's our unique way of experiencing the divine being. But that's not a one-way street. That still would be dualistic. We're here and the divine personal Lord is up there. It's also the means by which the divine being is able to experience him herself through us in a way that can't be had through any other being in all of existence. So each side is now becoming capable of having a means of experience through this relationship, And what brings this relationship about in this particular case? It's through the modality of any of the divine names. It could be love, it could be beauty, it could be wisdom, it could be compassion, it could be mastery, and so on. So many different names embodying different aspects of this relationship. So now there's a distinction. I think there's a tendency for most people to think of these divine names as something belonging just on the divine side of things that we can try to get some experience of, like it sort of trickles down into us. Or perhaps we think, well, we have some bits of these qualities in ourselves, and we try to awaken them and experience them. And those are all valid ways of looking at it, but it's much deeper than that. These divine names are what arises in the types of relationships that are possible between what's in manifestation and what's transcendent. And so all of these names are an embodiment of a particular type of relationship between ourselves and the divine being that's only actualized, is only activated when we're having an experience of this connectedness in which we don't feel separated from what we're experiencing. So now we'll just segue back to this notion of love, lover, and beloved, for instance. This is all kind of one unit that has different focuses. There's the part that's in existence, there's the infinite part beyond existence, and there's what transpires between the two sides. And none of that can take place without the active participation of both sides. Even Arby's teachings are just full of statements like this. So here's another one. Prayer is not an act produced unilaterally by the faithful. It is the conjunction of the worshipped and the worshiper. I'm going to read that again. Prayer is not an act that is produced unilaterally by the faithful. In other words, it's not something that really becomes meaningful just from our end of things. He says it's the conjunction of the worshiper and the worshipped, of the lover and beloved. A conjunction which is an exchange of divine names between the faithful and his Lord. And that precisely is the act of creation. What an amazing statement. Prayer is what is a conjunction and an exchange of divine names between the two sides, ourselves and our personal Lord. An exchange is not a one-way ticket back up or one-way ticket down. It's in both directions. So this prayer is not solely our prayer. It is, you could say, it's God's prayer at the same time. And neither side of that act, which is a creative act, it's what arises from that connection through the means of that particular divine name that brings to life what that quality embodies. He says the divine being needs his faithful in order to manifest himself. Reciprocally, the faithful needs the divine being in order to be invested with existence. Every prayer, each instant in a prayer, then becomes a recurrence of creation, a new creation. So talk about a fresh way of working with practices. So just, I mean, we can't possibly think of all the words that go with all this, but we can certainly dive into the intention and the feeling behind it when we're saying any of the divine names, a single divine name. If we can just imagine it's our manifest human self, the divine aspect of our being, having this communion, which takes place through the modality of that particular divine name. And it's not just that, that's wonderful enough. It's each side being able to experience the other, but even more marvelous than that, it's what arises from that. It's what comes through from that, what is born from that. A new creation is born at every instant. So every time we say a practice, if we do it in this state, I won't just say state of mind, that sounds kind of static. If we can do it in this state of beingness, in this state of relationship, then it's just the most magical thing. I mean, we can't imagine how magical it is every time we say one of these names. We are not only being invested with the unique expression of this quality that is embodied in our being, we're enabling the divine being to have an experience of an aspect of him herself that could never happen except through what comes through this unique relationship. And in the coming together of both sides of this, in this experience, something is birthed. And now, if the quality, let's say, is beauty, beauty has been born anew to even greater beauty than was there ever before, than was ever possible before. And that's not only available to ourself, our personal experience when we work with this practice, but it's changed the fundamental nature of this divine name so that anyone who now works with it has access to what we've contributed to it through our being. So enough description of this. Let's try it. So we've worked with this practice many times, but now let's see if we can really just dive in and experience it in this way. This freshness, this aliveness, this threefold nature of ourself, the divine being, the quality that we're intoning when we say Ya Jamil, Jamil, the divine beauty. And now the expression of what comes through outwardly in the cosmic dimension, inwardly in everything that we are interconnected with, and in the transcendent dimension, even beyond name and form, the properties of this divine beauty have been altered. So I'll say it and join in with me, and we'll say this slowly and really close your eyes and just allow yourself to be immersed in this ocean of beauty that you are giving voice to, and you're hearing the response from everything, revealing its beauty in response. Ya Jamil. 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 Ya Shamil, 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 Ya Shamil. Once more. Ya Shamil. And the fikr silently, just on the in breath, thinking Shamil. And the fikr seer, letting go of the thought of the word and just experiencing the essence of the divine beauty. Amen. Some more from Ibn Arabi. One does not see the divine essence, for it is itself the temple, the mystery of the heart into which the mystic penetrates. When having achieved the microcosmic plenitude of the perfect human, he or she encounters the form of God, which is that of their angels. We do not see the light. It is what makes us see and what makes itself seen in the form through which it shines. The temple is the scene of theophany, the heart where the dialogue between lover and beloved is enacted. And that is why this dialogue is the prayer of God. To feed God's creatures on him is to reinvest them with God, to make their theophonic radiance flower within them, to make oneself capable of apprehending the angelic function of beings, to invest them with and perhaps awaken them to the angelic dimension of their being. This is itself an angelic service. It is incumbent on the spiritual to preside over this mystic supper at which all beings feed on the pre-eternal sympathy of their being. Zernai Khan. Have these rays left the Supreme Spirit in order to come to the angelic plane? Have they left the angelic plane in order to come to the plane of the genius? And have they left the plane of the genius in order to come to the physical plane? No, they have passed through, but while passing through, they have received all that is to be received from there, learned all that is to be learned there, gathered all that there was to be gathered on their way, and they still are in those planes. They do not know it. They are only conscious of that plane in which the ray has opened its eyes. In other words, we're sitting in this room. We see what is before our eyes, but we do not see what is behind our back. Thus, every soul has behind its back the angelic plane and the plane of the genius, but before its eyes there is this physical plane. Therefore, the soul is only conscious of the physical plane and unconscious of the planes from which it has turned its eyes. So if we take this to heart and we fully engage with a practice or with prayer, we're not bringing to that practice or prayer solely our physical self, the way we normally perceive ourselves. That's not all that is available to this practice. Hazrat Khan says that we exist in all of the planes, and he's talking about now. We continue to exist in all the planes our soul passed through on the way to manifestation. And as we gradually awaken to that reality of our being, then when we engage in a practice, imagine the difference of what can come forth in all of that in relationship with the divine being, how the expression of any divine name that we're working with can come through even more richly than just doing it from our usual consciousness of ourself. So doing a spiritual practice is much more than the content or the description of whatever that practice is. The practice is really the relationship that we engage in the experience of that practice, how we understand it, how we open ourselves to be able to have that communion, and that enables so much more to come through that could come through otherwise. So to think once again what Ibn Arabi says, that he said that prayer is a creative act. Saying a divine name in this way is a creative act. It's bringing something new forth that wouldn't be there except for that sacred experience. And that sacredness is what arises through the connection of both sides. It's not sitting there on what we think of as God's side, waiting for us to get closer to it. It's what emerges in the relationship. It's a property of the relationship. And we can say every single divine name is a property of a particular way of relating between our human and divine aspects of ourselves. So I'd like to have us work now with a triplet of practices, since we've been talking about knower, known, active knowing, and so on. So let's see what it's like to take a particular divine name. In this case, we're going to work with Sami. S-A-M-I is the divine hearing. But we're going to combine it with a couple of other Wazaif divine names and see if we can really engage in this threefold nature of what can arise through doing this practice in this way. So the three parts are going to be Ya Sami, the divine hearing, Ya Kudus, Q-U-D-D-U-S, which is pure spirit, the catalyst of life energy, and then Ya Ba'ith, B-A''I-T-H, Ba'ith means the resurrection. So this is going to sound kind of paradoxical at first because we're used to thinking of hearing as a passive process. So we have our human hearing, we can hear notes being played and music and the sound of birds and so on. And then we can think of, okay, what's the divine hearing like? Well, we can hear subtle sounds, perhaps, and even perhaps the music of the spheres, but still we're likely to think of it as you're here, you're in the audience, and now you're able to open up to hearing things you couldn't hear before. So, but we're going to hopefully experiencing something different, this creative aspect, what creative process that arises in working with this particular divine name of Sami, and it's what can arise from that state of relationship that's taking place through hearing. So it's the Yasami, the divine hearing, Ya Kudus, pure spirit, and Ya Ba'ith, the resurrection. So it's like a hearing that brings about the resurrection, a way of divine listening that isn't just passive, it has an active property. And again, in our usual linear logical way of thinking, it's like, what? How does that make sense? But just try it on for size and see what happens. So we're going to say these three together. I'll do it once and then join with me. Ya Sami, Ya Kudus, Ya Bai. And then with a pause, you can just listen after each triplet. Ya Sami, Ya Kudus, Ya Bai. 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 Once more. Ya Sami, Ya Kudus, Ya Bai. And the thicker, inhaling Sami on the turnaround of the breath Kudus and exhaling Ba'ith. And the thicker here, just the essence of it. And I'd like to close with the beautiful poem by Ibn Arabi. O marvel, a garden among the flames. My heart has become capable of all forms. It is a meadow for gazelles and a monastery for Christian monks, a temple for idols and the pilgrim's Kaaba. the tables of the law and the book of the Koran. I profess the religion of love, in whatever direction its steed may take. Love is my religion and my faith. Amen.